The Santa Ana winds howled, a hot, dry breath tearing through the canyons of Southern California, carrying the scent of pine and impending doom. Below, the distant glow on the horizon wasn't the dawn. It was the relentless orange maw of a wildfire, consuming everything in its path with terrifying speed. Inside the sweltering fire station, Captain Ava Rodriguez felt the familiar knot of dread and determination tighten in her gut. Her crew, seasoned and grim-faced, moved with practiced efficiency, donning their heavy, fire-resistant gear, their eyes reflecting the ominous, distant inferno. They were heroes, answering a primal call, facing down a monster that cared nothing for human life or property. As the sirens screamed their urgent, piercing wail, they raced towards the smoke, leaving behind worried families who waited holding their breath, trusting not only in their bravery but also in the very systems that were supposed to protect them should the worst happen. In the harrowing aftermath, as countless homes turned to ash and communities mourned the devastating loss, something extraordinary happened. The world watched, horrified by the scale of the destruction, yet profoundly moved by the raw, unyielding courage of the firefighters. Donations began to pour in, a literal torrent of compassion from every corner of the nation, even from across distant oceans in Europe. The LA Fire Fund, a venerable, long-standing charitable organization dedicated to supporting firefighters and their families, suddenly became a beacon of hope, a tangible symbol of global empathy. News reports, often tear-jerking, showed celebrities pledging millions, while ordinary citizens, moved by the stories of sacrifice, sent what little they could, all believing implicitly that their generosity was directly supporting heroes like Ava and her crew. The promise, resonating with a powerful emotional echo, was tirelessly repeated in every news segment, every online appeal. Every dollar helps our brave firefighters and their families. The public's trust was absolute, a sacred unspoken bond forged in the crucible of crisis. Built on the unquestioned belief that their compassion would translate directly into comfort, security, and a vital safety net for those who sacrificed so much. Ava felt the weight of that trust, a silent vow to the public that their generosity would be honored. The LA Fire Fund, or similar benevolent organizations like it, was established. With the noblest of purposes, it was designed to be a lifeline, a critical safety net for firefighters injured in the brutal line of duty, ensuring they received the best medical care and rehabilitation. It was meant to offer profound solace and crucial financial support to the grieving families of fallen heroes, providing scholarships for children who lost a parent, and adapting homes for firefighters with life-altering injuries that forever changed their lives. It was also meant to invest in preventative measures and critical equipment, not covered by city budgets, ensuring that those who ran towards danger never had to face hardship alone. These were the promises that compelled ordinary people to reach into their pockets, often donating their last spare change. Donors trusted that each dollar, collected with such fervent goodwill, flowed unimpeded and directly to its intended, deserving beneficiaries, a sacred stewardship of public generosity. But as the immediate embers of the wildfires eventually cooled, a different, more insidious kind of smoke began to billow, a faint whisper of doubt that grew steadily louder, like a distant alarm. At first, it was subtle, easy to dismiss. A young widow, her eyes still raw from grief, found her claim for basic living assistance delayed, bogged down in an unexpected, frustrating bureaucracy. An older veteran, a beloved figure at Eva's station, suffering from debilitating lung disease contracted from years of smoke inhalation, questioned why specialized protective equipment, supposedly funded by donations, wasn't reaching the frontline crews. "They say the fund helps, Eva," he'd rasped, his voice hoarse, "but my claims been stuck for months, and look at these young ones, still using the old masks." These were just anomalies, dismissed at first as inevitable administrative hiccups in a large organization. But then whispers started within the fire department itself, among the ranks. Firefighters began to share similar stories of colleagues struggling, while disturbing rumors circulated about lavish, unexplained expenditures by the fund's top executives, far from the front lines. Ava began to feel a cold dread creep into her stomach. Sarah Jenkins, a tenacious investigative journalist known for her unwavering pursuit of accountability and her sharp nose for injustice, picked up on the faint, unsettling scent of something amiss. Her initial inquiries to the fund were met with polite but firm stonewalling, with vague, rehearsed statements about complex financial structures and the challenges of managing a large charity. Just bureaucracy, perhaps, her editor suggested, but Sarah sensed a story deeper than just a few delayed checks or a bit of red tape. She started digging, meticulously sifting through publicly available records like tax filings, 990 forms, corporate registrations, and obscure financial statements. She painstakingly compared the reported salaries of top executives to industry benchmarks for charities of similar size. The more she pulled at this seemingly innocuous thread, the more the intricate fabric of trust began to unravel, revealing deeply unsettling patterns. Her initial findings were just anomalies, faint tremors before a massive earthquake. The unease within the firefighting community deepened, a cold dread spreading through the ranks as they silently watched Sarah's determined pursuit. The culmination of Sarah's relentless investigative journalism was not just explosive. It was a detonation, shattering the comforting illusion the public had so desperately held. The headlines screamed, bold and unforgiving, across every major news outlet, both national and international. LA Fire Fund scandal. Where did the $100 million go? The figure, a staggering sum representing the public's immense, heartfelt generosity, became a chilling, infuriating symbol of alleged betrayal. The revelations poured out in a relentless torrent, each one a fresh, searing wound to the public's trust. Allegations emerged of exorbitant executive compensation, with some top officials reportedly receiving multi-million-dollar salaries and bonuses, vastly exceeding industry norms for a nonprofit of its kind. Whispers became shouts of seven-figure salaries and private jet travel. While firefighters suffered, there were undeniable claims of lavish, unnecessary expenditures. High-end travel to exotic locales for conferences, opulent office renovations with designer furniture and expensive art, and ostentatious galas and events that seemed to prioritize extravagant image over genuine impact. The true mission, the very purpose that compelled ordinary citizens to donate their hard-earned money, the support for heroes and their families, appeared to have been fundamentally sidelined, its sacred funds allegedly diverted to feed an internal machine of greed and questionable financial dealings. The specifics were nauseating. Shell corporations allegedly used for indirect payments, dubious real estate deals benefiting insiders, and investments that funneled money away from core charitable activities. The violation of fiduciary duty, the legal and ethical obligation to act in the best interest of donors and beneficiaries, was glaringly apparent. For Captain Ava Rodriguez, the news hit with the physical force of a collapsed building, worse than any backdraft she had ever faced. She sat in the station's break room, the newspaper trembling. In her gloved hands, its bold headlines mocking the daily sacrifices she and her comrades made. A profound anger surged through her, a raw, visceral betrayal on behalf of her injured colleagues, her fallen friends, and the countless families who had lost everything. "They trusted us," she murmured, her voice tight with suppressed fury, looking at a framed photo of a fallen comrade's young, smiling children on the wall, there. Innocence a stark contrast to the ugliness in the headlines. "We told them to trust this fund. We told the public this was legitimate. What do we tell them now? How do we look them in the eye?" The implications were devastating. Firefighters who had bravely faced down roaring infernos now faced the agonizing reality that the safety net promised to them and their families was compromised, its vital resources allegedly siphoned away for purposes entirely unrelated to their immense sacrifice. Families of fallen heroes, already grappling with unimaginable grief, found themselves denied full support, their desperate claims for assistance entangled in the fund's now tarnished reputation, their pleas met with bureaucratic indifference. The public's outrage was a palpable force, a collective roar of injustice from millions who felt their compassion had been brutally exploited, their generous donations squandered. The psychological cost was immense. Many firefighters felt a deep moral injury, a wound inflicted not by fire, but by the betrayal from within. Official investigations were launched with swift, decisive force, a hurricane of subpoenas and demands for documents. The FBI, the Attorney General's Office, and City Council oversight committees initiated sprawling probes, demanding answers and accountability from every level of the fund's leadership. There were calls for immediate resignations, forensic audits, and inevitably, the promise of potential legal actions against those implicated in the alleged misuse of funds. The slow, painstaking, and emotionally draining process of legal action began, aimed at prosecuting those responsible and attempting to recover the hundreds of millions of dollars that had allegedly vanished. The fund's leadership, initially defiant, issued carefully worded denials and counter-accusations, attempting to deflect blame. Their communication strategy crumbled under the relentless weight of public scrutiny and mounting evidence. The scandal's reach extended far beyond the LA Fire Fund itself. It cast a long, dark shadow over the entire charitable sector, fostering a widespread cynicism that made future fundraising efforts more difficult for genuinely worthy causes. The public, feeling burned and betrayed, became far more cautious about where they directed their compassion. The long, arduous process of rebuilding trust began, not just for the now disgraced fund, but for charities in general. New leadership was appointed, promising radical reforms, enhanced transparency measures, and stricter oversight. But the painful awareness lingered. Full, unquestioning trust might never return, for Captain Eva Rodriguez. The fight wasn't over. Exhausted but resolute, she channeled her anger into advocacy, joining a task force pushing for legislative reforms and enhanced oversight for all first responder charities. She vowed to ensure that no other firefighter or their family would ever have to face such a profound betrayal again. Her ultimate aim was to ensure that the sacred trust between the public and their heroes, so cruelly exploited, could eventually heal, and that the resources meant to protect the brave would truly, transparently reach their intended beneficiaries. The enduring spirit of the firefighters remained unbroken, a beacon of resilience, but the indelible stain of the scandal would forever be a painful part of their legacy. A stark, haunting reminder of a promise betrayed on a colossal scale.